Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into something you might not expect, the power of quality physical education. You might be thinking, wait, isn't that just gym class? But stick with us, it's way more than that. We're going to uncover how movement can actually supercharge learning, make well-being better, and even impact things like teachers' mental health. We've got fascinating research from UNESCO, studies from Australia, even a peek into teacher training in England. Should be a fascinating journey.
It is amazing how we often, I think, underestimate the impact of physical activity, and we kind of tend to separate it from academics, but there's a growing body of research showing how deeply intertwined they really are.
Exactly. UNESCO makes a pretty bold statement claiming that quality physical education, they call it QPE, is the only love subject that combines physical skills with something they call values-based learning and communication. What exactly does that mean?
Well, think of it this way. In a quality PE class, kids aren't just learning how to, dribble a basketball. They're learning about teamwork, fair play, how to handle winning and losing gracefully. All those important life skills we want them to have. And these values are embedded in the way the activities are structured and taught.
So it's not just about physical skills, it's about building character and social skills too.
Absolutely. And the research is backing this up. For example, one study found that children who regularly participate in physical activity actually score higher on standardized tests in math and reading. Movement seems to actually stimulate brain activity and help build those neural connections that are crucial for learning.
Wow, that's fascinating. So are we saying that getting kids moving can actually help them learn better in Alpine subjects?
There's definitely a strong correlation there. And what's even more interesting is that research suggests there's a prime window for kids to develop these skills. And that's preschool and early primary school. Those early years really lay the foundation for a lifetime of learning and well-being.
That makes sense. Kids are naturally active and curious at that age. They're learning through movement and play all the time.
Exactly. But here's where the problem comes in. Despite all this evidence, quality physical education often gets pushed aside in schools.
You're right. It always seems to be the first thing to go when budgets are tight or timetables are crowded.
Yeah, and that's reflected in reports from the Australian Research Alliance for Children and Youth, or ARASCWay. From both 2013 and 2018, they highlight that even in a country like Australia, which is often seen as progressive in its approach to education, there are still some significant challenges.
What kind of challenges?
Well, things like bullying, childhood obesity, and increasing academic pressure on young children. And all of these issues can be linked back, at least in part, to a lack of quality physical education.
So even if a country has good policies on paper, it doesn't necessarily translate into real change in the classroom.
Unfortunately not. And another major roadblock is the global shortage of specialist PE teachers, particularly in those crucial primary years.
That's a big problem. If teachers aren't trained specifically in physical education, how can they be expected to deliver high-quality programs?
Exactly. UNESCO reports from 2014 flag this as a serious concern. And to make matters worse, even in places like England, where there are dedicated PE teachers, some teacher training programs dedicate as little as 9 hours to preparing them to teach PE. 9 hours! It's almost unbelievable when you think about how vital those early years are.
9 hours. That doesn't seem nearly enough time to grasp all the complexities of child development, teaching methodologies, and how to create engaging lessons that incorporate those crucial values we talked about earlier.
It's definitely concerning. This lack of adequate training inevitably has a ripple effect, not just on the quality of PE being delivered, but also on the overall well-being of students.
And it's not just about physical fitness, right? We're talking about broader well-being, social skills, and even mental health.
Precisely. Kale and Harris, in their 2019 publication, discussed how a lack of quality PE can negatively impact children's self-esteem, social skills, and mental health. And these issues can have long-term consequences that reach far beyond the playground.
It sounds like this is a much bigger issue than most people realize. It's not just about kids getting enough exercise. It's about their overall development and well-being as human beings.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the kids either. The well-being of teachers is also deeply intertwined with this issue. In fact, a recent study by the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership, AITSL, found that teacher well-being is directly linked to student well-being.
So if teachers are stressed and burned out, it impacts the kids too. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the AITSL Spotlight report from 2022 highlights how teacher stress can lead to a decline in the quality of education, which ultimately affects the overall learning environment for students. And there's a tragic example from the UK that really underscores this point. The death of head teacher Ruth Perry was officially linked to the immense pressure she was facing due to school inspections.
That's heartbreaking. It highlights the immense pressure that teachers are under and the systemic issues that contribute to their stress.
The courts and tribunals' judiciary report on that case was a real wake-up call. It showed how the well-being of educators is often neglected and how that neglect can have devastating consequences. This brings us to a crucial question. What can be done? Are there any positive examples of how schools are addressing these challenges?
Yes, I'm curious about solutions. Are there schools or regions that are getting it right? And what can we learn from them?
There are some encouraging initiatives out there. Victoria, Australia is leading the way with a fantastic plan to place a mental health and well-being leader in every primary school.
That's a great step. So they're recognizing that supporting teachers' mental health is a crucial part of improving the whole school environment.
Exactly. The Victorian state government announced this in 2022, and it's a great example of a systemic approach. It's not just about adding a new position, it's about shifting the culture to prioritize well-being for everyone.
This makes me think back to what we were discussing about the shortage of specialist PE teachers. Do you think this new focus on well-being might help address that problem?
I think it could have a positive impact. By creating a more supportive and less stressful work environment, we might be able to attract and retain more qualified PE teachers. But there's more we can do. We need to start by changing the way people perceive physical education. It's not just about sports and fitness. It's about developing those cognitive, social, and emotional skills we talked about earlier.
It's about seeing movement as an integral part of learning and development, not just something extra.
Exactly. And to do that effectively, we need to invest in teacher training and curriculum development. We need to ensure that all teachers, not just specialist PE instructors, understand the importance of movement and how to integrate it into their lessons. Think about the teachers who've had the biggest impact on your own children. Did they seem equipped to bring movement into the classroom?
That's a really good point. I know some of my kids' teachers have been fantastic at incorporating active learning, but others have definitely struggled. What would this kind of teacher training look like?
Well, it would go beyond simply teaching teachers how to organize a game of tag. It would involve helping them understand child development, different learning styles, and how to use movement to enhance learning across all subjects. It could even include things like mindfulness and yoga to help teachers manage their own stress levels.
So it's about equipping teachers with a whole toolkit of strategies and resources.
Exactly. And it's about starting early. Those preschool and primary years are so crucial for laying the foundation for a lifetime of healthy habits and positive attitudes towards physical activity. We
Mhm.
need to create a culture where movement and play are seen as essential parts of the school day, not just something that's squeezed in if there's time.
It seems like that's where initiatives like the one in Victoria could really make a difference. If we can create a more supportive and less stressful environment for teachers, they'll be better equipped to create those positive experiences for kids.
I completely agree. It's all interconnected. And when we invest in quality physical education, we're not just investing in physical health, we're investing in the cognitive, social, and emotional development of our children. We're investing in their future and ultimately the future of society.
That's a powerful statement. But let's be honest, there's also a societal bias we have to overcome. We tend to prioritize academic achievement over everything else, putting so much pressure on kids to excel in subjects like math and science.
It's true. We've created a culture that often values intellectual ability over physical literacy. And that's a problem because we need both.
So how do we change that? How do we convince policymakers, school administrators, and even parents that quality physical education is just as important as those core academic subjects?
It's a challenge, but I think it starts with presenting the evidence. We need to keep highlighting the research that shows the benefits of quality PE, not just for physical health, but for academic success, mental well-being, and social development.
It's about showing that it's not an either-or situation. We can have both academic excellence and physical literacy. They can actually complement each other.
Precisely. We need to shift the narrative. Instead of viewing PE as an extra or something that takes away from academic time, we need to position it as a fundamental element of a well-rounded education.
And it's not just about test scores or college applications. It's about equipping kids with the skills they need to thrive in life. Collaboration, communication, problem-solving, resilience. These are the things that will help them succeed in whatever path they choose.
Absolutely. And it's about recognizing that movement isn't a distraction from learning. It's actually an essential ingredient.
I like that. Movement as an essential ingredient is a simple way to reframe the whole conversation. But even if we can convince people at an intellectual level, there's still the issue of implementation. How do we ensure that quality PE is actually happening in schools day in and day out?
That's where it gets tricky. It requires a multifaceted approach. We need supportive policies at the national and regional levels, adequate funding for schools to hire qualified teachers and develop robust programs, and ongoing professional development to keep teachers up to date with the latest research and best practices.
It sounds like it takes a village to raise a physically literate child.
It really does. And it also requires a shift in mindset within the school community itself. Administrators need to prioritize PE and provide teachers with the time and resources they need. Parents need to be advocates for their children's physical education and encourage them to be active outside of school. And teachers need to be empowered to experiment, innovate, and create engaging learning experiences that meet the unique needs of their students.
It's a collective effort, for sure,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth it. Imagine a world where kids grow up feeling confident and competent in their bodies, where physical activity is seen as a joyful and essential part of life.
That's the vision we should be striving for. A world where movement is integrated into everyday life, not just relegated to a specific time slot in the school day.
It's a world where kids develop a lifelong love of movement and all the benefits that come with it. Improved physical and mental health, enhanced creativity, stronger social connections, and a greater sense of well-being.
And it's a world that's better equipped to face the challenges of the 21st century. Challenges that require not just intellectual prowess, but also physical and emotional intelligence, resilience, adaptability, and a sense of shared purpose.
Wow, that's inspiring. But I have to ask, how do we bridge the gap between this vision and the reality we see in many schools today, where PE is often an afterthought, underfunded, and disconnected from the rest of the curriculum?
That's the million-dollar question, and I don't think there's a simple answer. It requires ongoing advocacy, collaboration, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It also requires us to be realistic about the challenges and celebrate the small victories along the way.
So it's a long game,
Yeah.
but the stakes are high.
Absolutely. We're talking about the health, well-being, and future potential of our children. We can't afford to let physical education be sidelined any longer.
You're right. It's time to elevate it to its rightful place as a cornerstone of education. But it's not just about policy changes or curriculum overhauls. It's about changing the culture, the mindset, the way we value movement in our society.
I completely agree. We need to create a culture where movement is seen as essential, not extra, where it's integrated into all aspects of life, not just relegated to the gym or the playing field.
It's about recognizing the power of movement to transform not just individuals, but communities and entire society.
And it's about empowering everyone to embrace movement as a fundamental human right, essential for well-being and flourishing.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground here, exploring both the challenges and the incredible potential of quality physical education. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on a specific point. We've talked about the importance of starting early, in those preschool and primary years. But what about older students? Is it too late to make a difference for teenagers who may have already disengaged from physical activity?
It's never too late. Adolescence is another critical period for development, and physical activity can play a huge role in supporting teenagers' physical, mental, and emotional health.
So even if a teenager hasn't been particularly active in the past, there's still hope for them to discover the joys of movement.
Absolutely. It's all about finding activities they enjoy and creating a supportive environment where they feel comfortable trying new things.
That makes sense. Teenagers are often dealing with so much pressure, both internally and externally. Finding a healthy outlet for that stress can make a world of difference.
Exactly. And quality physical education can provide that outlet. It's a chance for teenagers to move their bodies, challenge themselves, build confidence, and connect with others in a positive way. And let's not forget the cognitive benefits. Physical activity can improve focus, memory, and creativity, which can be a huge boost for their academic performance.
So it's not just about keeping them physically healthy. It's about supporting their overall well-being and helping them thrive during a really challenging stage of life.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that one size doesn't fit all. Teenagers have diverse interests and abilities, so we need to offer a wide range of activities and approaches to physical education.
So instead of forcing everyone to play team sports or run laps, we need to provide options that appeal to different personalities and learning styles.
Exactly. Some teenagers might thrive in a competitive environment, while others might prefer individual activities or creative movement experiences. The key is to create a space where everyone feels welcome, valued, and empowered to explore their own potential.
I love that. It's about moving away from the traditional gym class model and embracing a more holistic and inclusive approach to physical education.
And it's about connecting physical activity to real-world applications. For example, we can teach teenagers about fitness and nutrition, help them develop healthy habits that will last a lifetime, and empower them to make informed choices about their own well-being.
We can also show them how movement can be a tool for self-expression, stress management, and social connection. These are valuable life skills that will serve them well beyond their school years.
Absolutely. And it's about fostering a sense of community and belonging. When teenagers feel connected to their peers and their school, they're more likely to engage in positive activities, including physical activity.
It's about creating a culture where movement is celebrated, where everyone feels supported and encouraged to participate, regardless of their skill level or background.
I completely agree. And it's about challenging those societal biases we discussed earlier. We need to stop equating athletic ability with worth or intelligence. Every individual has their own unique strengths and potential, and physical activity can help them discover and develop those strengths.
It's about valuing movement for what it is, a fundamental human expression that brings joy, connection, and well-being to our lives.
Beautifully said. And as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave our listeners with a thought to ponder. We've explored the multifaceted benefits of quality physical education, from its impact on individual well-being to its potential to transform communities and societies. But what if we took it a step further? What if we viewed quality physical education not just as a subject in school, but as a fundamental human right?
That's a powerful idea. Access to quality physical education as a right, not a privilege. It
Yeah.
aligns with what we've been talking about, valuing movement as essential for human flourishing.
Exactly. Imagine a world where every child, regardless of their socioeconomic background, geographic location, or physical ability, had the opportunity to experience the joy and transformative power of movement. A world where physical literacy was considered just as important as literacy in reading and math.
It's a world where communities would be healthier, more vibrant, and more connected. A world where individuals would be empowered to lead more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
And it all starts with recognizing the inherent value of movement and making quality physical education a priority in our homes, our schools, and our communities.
So as we conclude this deep dive, I encourage you to reflect on what you've learned today. Think about the role of movement in your own life and in the lives of those around you. What small steps can you take to champion quality physical education? How can you make movement a more integral part of your daily routine and inspire others to do the same?
Remember, change starts with awareness, and every action, no matter how small, can contribute to creating a world where movement is valued, celebrated, and accessible to all.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of quality physical education. We hope it's inspired you to move more, learn more, and advocate for a future where movement is embraced as a fundamental human right.
Keep moving and keep learning.